I think you're right, up there. And then we have obviously the cheese and the wine, the refreshments, and thank you once again for RSVPing. We are so excited to host you. As you know, I'm Sandra and this is my colleague, and I'm going to hand it over to you. Xoliswa, are you ready?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. We are so happy to be hosting you. And now to start with my speech. Real estate is an imperishable asset, ever increasing in long-term and short-term value. It is the most solid security that human ingenuity has devised. It is the basis of all security and about the only indestructible security. A warm and cordial welcome again to all our guests who have made it today. As Sandra has mentioned, my name is Xoliswa. I am a 20-year-old passionate real estate agent, and I will be hosting you today with my partner in crime. And to get started with today's event, would like to introduce you to the leading real estate brand in Southern Africa, Keller Williams. So Keller Williams was co-founded by Gary Keller and Joe Williams in 1983 and was built on a simple yet revolutionary mission to build careers worth having, businesses worth owning, lives worth living, experiences worth giving, and legacies worth living. See, Gary and Joe understood that when agents received service from their broker at the highest level possible through technology, training, culture, models, systems, agents also delivered the highest service to their clients as well. Sandra?
That is correct. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to our property meet and greet cheese and wine event, right? The purpose of our event tonight is to bring together sellers and buyers, investors, developers, business professionals to this extraordinary event. We also have realtors in the house. Realtors, if you're here, can I hear you say aye? We have realtors in this very room who are just real estate agents just like myself and Xoliswa in the property industry. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Keller Williams Clockwork Properties, and we are so delighted to be your host tonight. We have a belief system which stands for WI, 4C, 2 T's and S, which stands for win-win, integrity, customers, commitment, communication, creativity, teamwork. Team stands for together, everyone achieves
more.
Right? Trust and success through people. Tonight, a wealth of information will be centered around the property industry. We will get informed about the importance of why a realtor is important in this industry, know about the property industry, how is it affecting our businesses in the economy. We will also open up the floor to ask questions where answers will be provided to the panelists. You will get to meet your panelists soon. In our midst, we are presented with 3 special guests. So ladies and gentlemen, on stage, our very first speaker, please could you give him a round of applause. Welcome right now, Ryan Kruger, who is the director of NEL Attorneys.
Evening, everybody. Thank you for the wonderful warm welcome. So yeah, guys, I'm just going to touch base with you guys this evening. It's actually quite an interesting situation I'm finding myself in. Not often do I get to meet the buyers and sellers that we may eventually have as clients. Normally by the time that the offer arrives at my office, I've never met the buyer, I've never met the seller, we've never actually even had an introduction with each other, and that's more being referred to by the estate agents. So it's going to be quite a unique opportunity for this evening. So what I thought I would do is I would just touch on a little bit closer. So what I thought I'd just do this evening is just touch on basically who we are, what our firm can offer, and also just going to enlighten you as the buyer or the prospective seller exactly what your obligations may be in the entire transfer procedure. So if you've never bought a property before, you probably wouldn't know that when you're buying and selling a property, it goes through a conveyancing firm, and that's exactly what our firm does. We attend to the actual transfer of the property in the deeds office, which is actually the regulatory body for every single property in the country. There are a number of deeds offices in the country. In Gauteng, we are only province with 2, one in Pretoria, one in Johannesburg, and all the properties are already pre-demarcated into the specific deeds office. So who are we as NEL attorneys? We are one of the preferred partners of KW Clockwork. We have 2 offices. We have one in the West Rand, and we have one here in Edenvale, just up the road on Linksfield Road. Assuming all of you are from this area, so more than likely we will be dealing with you, facilitating your transfer, as my Edenvale office would be the closest. Our firm began 18 years ago. It was started by my partner, NEL. Through the years, obviously, we've built a name in the West Rand, and about 4 years ago, we opened up here in the East Rand. We are on 2 banks panels. We are on FNB and Standard Bank's bank panels. For your buyers who are first-time buyers, more than likely you don't have the access to cash and buying your properties outright, so you'd be using what's called a mortgage bond, and we're able to facilitate both of those. Sorry? Louder. Is the mic not working? Oh, is it just recording? Brilliant. Brilliant, okay. No, definitely not. Okay. Okay, so we are on both Standard Bank and FNB's panels, so we are able to register your mortgage bonds as well. For your sellers, we are able to cancel your existing mortgage bonds as well. Obviously, it helps being on the bank's panels, facilitating everything under one roof. You're able to speed up time, and you're able to keep everything under one roof, and thus a faster and more effective transfer. I thought I'd basically also touch on, I'll also touch on basically what your obligations are as a buyer and seller. There's going to be a ton of information that's going to come your way right from the get-go. There's going to be heaps of terms that are going to be thrown at you, and highly unlikely that you're going to understand all of them. But basically, what I'd highlight is as the purchaser, there's basically 2 things that you do. Once you've seen your property and you've made your offer to purchase, you basically do 2 things. You pay and you sign. It's as quickly and as easy as that. All the work is done beforehand. By the time you've viewed your property, you've inspected it, you've offered your purchase price, and your mortgage bond has been granted. Effectively, you need to pay and you need to sign. When we talk about paying, it's what's called bond and transfer costs. As the purchaser, those are the 2 items that you are liable for. Transfer and bond costs are regulated by the Law Society of South Africa. That means you can't have an attorney charging astronomical amounts, so they all are regulated. And as a buyer, I would definitely take the opportunity, if I was you, to find out exactly on your purchase price how much you're going to be in for your bond and transfer costs, because once the process starts rolling, it does need to be paid quite soon into the transfer, so you need to make sure you have access to those funds. Otherwise, delaying the transfer can land you in a little bit of trouble. From your seller side of things, if I can touch on your seller, there's a lot of things that need to be paid for by the seller. Some of the more confusing things are what's called your rates and levy clearance figures. What that is as your seller, you need to ensure that all your debt on the property is paid up, as well as in advance for both your rates from the municipality, which includes water and electricity, and your levies if you're in a sectional title, or if you belong to a homeowners association. Those all need to be paid in advance. The reason why this is done is to ensure that your purchaser, when purchasing the property, does not incur or inherit any of your previous debt on the property. So it is essential that as a seller you are aware of those upcoming costs. Rates is any arrears plus 4 months in advance. Levies is normally any arrears plus 2 months in advance. If you don't have access to those funds, I know it is a lot of money up front. There are certain things that are put in place with certain companies, such as a bridging finance company, which can lend that amount to you. Obviously, though, you would like to be up to date. They do charge interest and admin fees and whatnot. So knowing that these expenses are forthcoming, I think, is essential for your sellers. Sellers will also have to provide what's called compliance certificates with regards to, the first one is the electric compliance certificate. That is where electrician comes out to the property. They inspect their wiring throughout the property from point of contact at your plug point to your light fittings. If the electrical work is not of the standard, it has to be repaired. Thereafter, the compliance certificate can be signed off by your electrician. Gas compliance as well. This ensures that all the gas work is done correctly, and if there is an electric fence, electric fence compliance certificates. This protects both buyer and seller because at least at the buyer, you know you're moving into the property, all of those regulations have been met and you're not going to be in for any unexpected surprises.
So
Yes.
how long is the electrical certificate valid for?
Electric.
i.e., for example, if you move in a month into, you find that the light or the light fitting to your garage doesn't work, how long is
Yeah.
that?
So
And
to
what's the rate of?
Perfect. So this is actually quite an interesting topic. When it comes to electrical compliance certificates, they're valid for a period of 2 years as long as there is no alterations to any of the electrical work. Okay. It's not uncommon for a situation to arise where electricians come out, he's quoted, he's done the work in his opinion that he thinks has been done correctly. Your buyer moves into the property and he turns on a garage light and it just starts tripping the electricity. The normal procedure then is you give the contractor an opportunity to come back out to the property and inspect his work. You're then able to tell him, this is my situation. I thought I was getting a certificate which confirms all the electrical work has been done. However, when I turn on, for example, this light or the geyser, it trips the power, clearly that this is an issue. He then has the opportunity to remedy his work. He's not allowed to charge the purchaser for that work because he's already given that certificate. If anything, he is allowed to bill the seller, but it doesn't become the purchaser's problem. If your electrician is not forthcoming, he's not coming to the party, you're then able to report him to the Labour Department and they can then take it further by removing his license. It's very rare that it comes to that stage. Normally when the issue is raised, the electrician is the first person to come back to the property and repair his work. It's also something that I do encourage with the agents when providing. A lot of people don't know an electrician. This is where I'm getting at. And it's imperative that you work with somebody that you trust. Because if there does arise a situation where your agent has referred a contractor to you, that work is not of the standard it's required to be. There's extra pressure on your electrician to remedy his work because he knows he's going to lose further business from his agent.
I get that, but it just gives a lot of work for the buyer.
Unfortunately,
No,
yeah.
But the question I have is, I bought via the agent and I paid you with the lawyer's money and the electrical certificate was given to the lawyers, but it looks like I have to do the runaround and not...
So let me answer it like that. I'm not necessarily saying the entire process falls on you as the buyer. It will be facilitated between the attorneys and the agent as well to assist you as well. But as an attorney, I'm not a specialist in electrical work, so if I get a COC, I won't know that it's defective because I've never been to the property myself. So unfortunately, it does only transpire at a later stage unless you've stipulated something in the contract that you would like to get a second opinion, for example, from your own electrician, which as long as that's put in the offer to purchase before it's accepted by the seller, that's fully legal and binding. Yep.
So just to clarify, speaking in layman's terms, can we ask, as the buyer, you get this property, what is your first step when you have, who do you report it to when you have the fault? Do you go to your agent
Yes.
to report the fault?
Yes, you would go to your agent.
Okay.
Correct.
And then the agent will escalate?
Yes, the agent will usually liaise with the electrician as well as the transferring attorneys. They'll liaise with the electrician, who then at a suitable time between the buyer and the electrician's schedule, come out to the property and inspect the work done. Does that answer your question? Yeah, what I'm trying to say is you're not left in the lurch, basically. We are there to facilitate because at the end of the day, you've come to me now as a first-time buyer, for example. You've bought a property and something has soured. Even though it may necessarily not have been my fault initially as I never did the work, I still want a happy buyer and I don't want a buyer to leave the last touch of, or the last thing he ever deals with the attorneys is electrical faults. It leaves a sour taste and then I'll almost guarantee you I'll never hear from you again when you look to buy or sell. Yep.
I'm going to just mention that on the electrical compliance certificate at the bottom, the electrician has to put his name and number, all his details on there. So if you feel that something hasn't been done right, you can physically phone him and he has to come out. If he doesn't, the electrical board are very, very strict with the electricians. They have to come and rectify it because it's dangerous. I mean, people can die. So always, if somebody's not helping you, either the agent or the attorney, phone, you can phone the electrician on the certificate that you got, give it the original. And normally they jump because they know they're getting into trouble.
Okay, sorry guys, I'm under a little bit of pressure for time. But in closing, what I would like to say is my business cards was handed out. If you have any questions, buyers, if you want to understand what you'll be in more or less in terms of your transfer, your bond cost, please, you're welcome to reach out and we'll send you a quotation. Sellers, if you want to start understanding a little bit more of what you'll be getting out from the sale of your property, you're also welcome to contact me, and I can more or less work out for you exactly what you'll be clearing, explaining some of the common expenses that would be incurred. Okay. Guys, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to stay much longer. I've got an AGM that I have to go to attend to, but you do have my contact details. If you would like to get in contact with me, please reach out, and I'm always happy to help. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Just to make a note, so our program is as follows. We are going to have speakers that are going to come to the stage and they are going to deliver their speech. So if you do have any question at this point, please note it down. We are trying to keep terms of time because it is in the evening, so we don't want to be driving late. So we're going to, you can just note your question down, and then after all the speeches, we're going to have a question and answer session with our panelists who are going to answer all your questions, anything that you might need to know. So thank you so much again to Ryan. Unfortunately, he is leaving, but we... Yes. So the lady outside did give out his business cards as well, so you can contact him anytime and ask him any question that you have.
Correct, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I was corrected. There's 4 speakers, not 3 speakers.
4
So
speakers.
it's 4 speakers.
4 speakers.
So, yeah.
Okay. And to welcome our next speaker without wasting any more time, for all your bond pre-qualification needs, help me to welcome Hillary from Independent Mortgage Originators.
Thank you, ladies. Evening, everybody. I'm from Independent Mortgage Origination, as Sandra had said. The CEO of the company is Johan van Sail, who has had the company for 15 years plus. I have been with him for approximately 8 years. We are the in-house consultants, or in-house originators here at Clockwork. We have a little office down the passage, so it's very convenient. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a brief the process of home loan applications and how they channel through the banks. What we do is, once we've received all the client's documents, we will do an assessment first before submitting to the bank to make sure that we cut down on any problems before the credit manager basically picks it up. So what happens as well is, if it's a full title, then that's fine, but sectional title, we also check to see for the body corporate financials of that complex. Because if there should be a problem that the body corporate has got a problem with levies or running at a loss, the bank will have a problem in financing that unit. Okay. Once it has been assessed and everything is correct, we submit electronically to the banks. We are connected directly to the home loan centres. Once it gets there, they receive it and it gets sent to the validations department. The validations department then checks all the documents. They verify the salary against the bank statements, any lease agreements that they're all still in place, maintenance, the court orders. Once that's all in order, then it goes to the risk and compliance. At risk and compliance, they checked and verify that the company that the client is working for is in fact a legit company. They also do confirmation of employment, and they also, they will also do Interpol clearances on any passport holders, and also police clearance internally as well for South African ID holders. Once that's been passed, then it will go to the credit manager, who hopefully will approve the loan. If everything is in order, he will give an approval in principle, subject to the valuation of the property. He then does that approval, and then it generates a request to the valuer's department, who will then make an appointment with the agent to go and view the property. Normally, with full title, they will do a physical. If it is sectional title, they can do a desktop, so they won't physically go out to the property. Okay. Once the assessor, once he does his valuation, he puts all the information on he's got a device, and then it generates back through to the home loans department, who will then, if everything's okay, send it back to the credit manager, who will then approve the loan. Once the loan is final granted, we will receive a quote with the client's interest rate and all the terms and conditions of the bond. But what we do is we wait for all the bank's instructions to come through, and then we will compare and discuss the best rate with the client. We will discuss life cover, because some of the banks will add life cover. Others, the initiation fee has to be paid up front or can be added onto the bond. Any additional cover, that is a clause that the bank adds, that if the client does not pay, the bank is able to sue them for that additional amount, but we go through everything with the client. And this whole process for the client to accept can take about 2 weeks, because then there's also the price war. That's when the fun starts, okay? The banks also have a cost-inclusive product. ABSA, Standard Bank and FNB at the moment, up to a purchase price of full loan amount, 1.8 million. Nedbank currently does not have it, but they are looking at launching a product in January to include costs. Once the client has accepted the bond, we advise the bank, then they instruct the attorneys, and the bank nominates the bond attorneys. Once they receive it, they also liaise then with the transferring attorneys and get the whole process running smoothly. We also, as originators, stay involved until registration to just assist if there are any problems in the process. And that's it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, for all your detective work in the home, I know we had the gentleman who was asking about the COCs and what goes on. How do you know about this default? So if you're looking for a detective to work in a home, right now, up next we have the director and the co-founder of, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Veldhuizen and Son. Give him a round of applause as he comes up.
Oh, I brought the biggest file. Why should I do that? Good evening, everybody, and thank you all for just being here. It's fantastic to see you all. I'm going to be briefly touching on a few things. I'm going to be touching on the history of who it is that we are, a little bit more about what a home inspection is, and then I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about the property practitioner's bond. So who we are. We were originally part of a company called PPF, Valdezen, which was run by my grandfather named Paul. And Paul was a carpenter and joiner his entire life. He loved it. And that's knowledge that he passed over to me. A 6-year course, nobody told me it would take 6 years to be a carpenter and joiner. 6 years to study carpentry and joining, and an additional 2 to become a home inspector, to be proudly standing here in front of you guys tonight and say, I can help you. I know what I'm doing. Now, Paul had this wonderful vision and this mission statement in life, and that is to be there, to help as many people as he can for as long as he can. A vision and a mission statement that we carried over into Veldhuizen and Sons. Because for us from the start, the ball has been there. It's fantastic, it's opened up doors. But for us from the start, it's been about the human side, how we can help everybody around us. So that is who we are. That's our core values. Now a little bit more about what a home inspection is. There are 2 parts to it. And the first part is the technical side. Now the technical side is, it's an entire book full, and I won't be able to go into everything here tonight. But the technical definition of home inspection is that it's a limited, non-invasive look at your property. Now you get patent defects, which are defects that everybody can see. Now the patent defects are things like cracks in walls and things like that. And as soon as the buyer walks in, he can see them and he's going, yeah, this is going to cost me millions to fix. And we're there to assure them, no, it's absolutely not. And then you get the latent defects. Now the latent defects are listed on the brochure that is there in front of you. And there are actually more to it than just that simple things that I mentioned. Those are the latent defects that we take a look at. Roof cavities, drainage, and things like that. Now you do get that declaration form. And that declaration form is fantastic in its own right. Don't get me wrong, but there's always been a lacking in that form. It's not unilateral across the board. Each agency has got something else that they put on it and something else that they take off it. And when you use us, this is what you end up with. A home inspection report. It's anything between 18 to 36 pages long. That is what we do. and it's a more informed decision, an open and trustworthy way to do business. That is what the technical side is to what home inspections is. But it's so much more than that, people. It is the stories that we get to tell. The same as with real estate. I'm sure you guys got a million stories. For us, it's people like Lauren, the single mother who's moving down to Cape Town. And she wanted to make an offer on a property there, but she wanted to move down there first before she could take a look. And by the time we left there, we did inspection for her, but the time we left there, she knew that we had a branch in Cape Town, and she contacted the agent and made an offer on the property with the condition of the home inspection report. And she called me this morning and told me that the offer was accepted. It is stories like Daniel. Daniel's a fantastic person, and after years of hard work, he finally managed to save up and get that promotion for that property that he always wanted. But there was a problem with this property. It was infested with gogas. But because Daniel knew what was wrong with this property, he still made an informed decision. He made an offer to purchase the property. And he was so excited because his mom didn't know about it, but there was a little garden cottage in the back for her. And geez, that excitement, that's just beautiful. It is stories of Eric. Eric was a fantastic character, and he filled out that declaration form, and he did list a few things. And when we climbed off the roof, we went to Eric and we asked him, listen here, why didn't you mention that the roof is leaking? And Eric planted his feet into the ground, he looked us square in the eye, and he told us, we should not worry, this roof only leaks in the summertime. What are we supposed to say when something like that happens? But most importantly, it's about stories about agents like Sam. And Sam, we did a pre-listing inspection for Sam. And the buyer did sign off on the inspection report. There's a page in the back. We sign off it, the seller signs off it, the buyer signs off on it. And they did sign this report. And the buyer called Sam, and he used colorful language that's not suitable. He called her a fraud, he called her a liar. And Sam contacted us. And Sam was visibly shaken. You can hear in her voice that this is something bad that has happened. And we called the buyer up and we told him in no uncertain terms that you don't have any legs to stand on. You did see that that is a defect. You did sign off on it. And that, my friends, that is what home inspection is. It's a million stories like this. It's stories of Sam, of Luke, and it's beautiful. Now, just quickly, I want to tell you guys about the bill. Now, the bill is hundreds of pages long, and I won't have time to go into everything here tonight. But what I can tell you is this, is that the bill has been a long time coming. Now, since the 1970s, the State Affairs Agency Board has been there. And since the 1970s, it's been stuck there. And in 2008, the Consumer Protection Act came in, but it wasn't enforced. It was not there. And in 2018, the Property Practitioners Act was promulgated. It was put through the rolling circus, that's what I called it. It was put through the rolling circus. And what I've spoken to other agents, when I've spoken to conveyancing attorneys and lawyers, it all states that it is imminent. This bill is imminent. The arrival is imminent. We're just waiting for it to be published. Now, there are millions of things that are changing with this bill, and a few good things and a few bad things. But one of the good things that is changing with this bill is that all defects have to be declared upfront. Before you list a property, these defects have to be declared upfront. Because in the end, it's not just the buyer, not just the seller, that can get into trouble, it's the agents as well. And there's so much more I can say about the bill, but again, there's limited time. And I just wish to close off in saying this, that in the end, it's not just a home. It is brides and birthday parties. It is lazy Sunday mornings and hectic Mondays. That is what it is. It's where memories are made. And working together, we can create an environment of so much trust, so much transparency, so much honesty. Together we can create something magical. And that's it, guys. I just want to thank Xoliswa and Sandra for just inviting me here, giving me a couple of minutes, and I'm going to go get juice now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Devin. Thank you. I think some of the stories that you mentioned, some people might already start relating to them. If you have bought property before, if you are looking into buying into property, these are things that you definitely need to look out for. Thank you, Hillary, as well, for the bond application procedure that you took us through. And now we're going to have our fourth and last speaker of the day. As soon as Ms. Gina is finished, we will introduce our panelists for the day who are going to answer all your property related questions. Okay, so this is how I introduce her. The founder of Stepping Stone Primary School. Welcome, Ms. Gina Roan.
Thank you so much for having me here. Now I know why I'm here. After listening to all that you guys said, I'm here to tell you all the mistakes that I made and all the bad things and what cost me a lot. But I'm going to give you a little bit of background so that you can understand what I feel is important in this whole process. So my name is Gina Roan. I'm a law graduate from Brazil, but before I studied law, I became a foundation phase teacher. So I did my last 3 years at school to learning to become a foundation teacher, foundation school. So I'm also qualified to teach primary school children. And I've been in South Africa for 29 years, so English is not my home language, so please excuse me. But I have lived in this area for 21 years. But about 20 years ago, I became a single mother of 2 very young children. So at that time, it was important to decide, okay, what do I do now? You know, buying a home, moving houses, and I used to live in Sunwood Park, and I used to work in Modderfontein, in Thornhill. So I said, okay, that makes sense to, after forgetting my kids in the car and to drop them off at school, and I drive on the highway, oh my gosh, they made a noise, they're still in the car. So I said, okay, now I have to move closer to work. And also, I must tell you, I got lots of speeding fines because I drove on the emergency lane to try and get to work, because dropping the kids off at school at 7 o'clock, and then I had to be at work at 7:30, so it was very far, you know, Sunwood Park to Modderfontein. So my first decision was, okay, I have to live closer to work, and I have to live closer to my kids' school hour. So in the process, lots of things happened, and I had a car accident in Brazil as well during the process of getting divorced and all of that. So I was off work for quite a long time, and when I went back to work, they discovered, say, wait a minute, you have a law degree, so what are you doing in the adult education school? So you need to work with us as a human resources manager. So they did that for me, and I had to travel a lot. And I said, okay, now what do I do with my children, you know? I had to, I had to just move closer to where the school was, because I had no other support in this country. So that's what I did. And when I bought my first property in Edenvale, I had another dream. And this is what I wanted to say to you guys. It's important to hold on to your dreams, because I wanted to own my own school one day. So when I bought a house opposite the Edenvale Primary School, I had that in mind. And after 10 years as a human resources manager at African Explosives, I decided to then start my first school. And today I own 2 properties in Edenvale. It's for my nursery school, and I'm now developing my primary school, also on the same road, so there's lots of up and down. But yeah, for me, the mistakes that I made, you know, in buying properties, I will never forget. When I bought my first property, I decided that I felt sorry for the guy that was selling the property, because he had just gotten divorced. And I said, don't worry, I will get the electrical certificate compliance. Little did I know that the house had to be rewired, so I couldn't get it. So the lawyers just said, this is what you said, you were going to get it. So I had to rewire the entire house at my cost, and as a buyer, and then so that I could save this guy, poor guy, 400 rand. Well, it was in 2004. My last purchase was my second house in Edenvale as well. I discovered that building plans are very important. So what you're buying needs to be reflected on the building plans. Otherwise, it's a no-go. So the building plans of that particular house was not correct. So there were a lot of things that had been built and added onto the house later on. And that stopped transfer, because I said, no, I can't continue with this. So it took an extra few long months. And I'm still in the process of getting this plan approved, but we have written a clause in the contracts, and so anything else that needs to to be uncovered, it will be the seller's responsibility. So yeah, for me, just sum all of this up, have your dream in place and know, okay, this is where I want to go. Partner with good property consultants that will protect your rights as a buyer or as a seller, and be honest, be very honest about what your intentions are, and be very transparent as well. So thank you so much for having me, and now thank you. Now I truly understand why I'm here, just to talk about all the mistakes that I made. So thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Gina. I think it's stories like this that make our career worthwhile, because you are able to help people, you're able to save certain people from certain situations that could have at least gone very badly. So just now we are going to introduce our panelists, and we are going to start taking questions. So Sandra?
Yes, before I go into that, as you walked in, everybody, you would see that there's a valuation pack that tells you about who we are, me and Xoliswa. So you'll take the time to have a look at that when you get home. And all the different stories that you've heard from Gina, the stories that, you know, the errors that she made. Lots of buyers and sellers don't know the pros and the cons. There's a lot of things that tie up with everything. The independent mortgage bond originators that help you, that fight for you to get that bond for your property. There's a lot of information. Then also the home inspection, which also cuts down a lot of errors. So all this is a wealth of information, and please bear in mind to now start gearing up those difficult questions. We're really looking forward to it. So this is where the fun begins. No, so you'll see that we've got the red carpet. You'll see the panelists walking right here. The first one coming up is Dion. Please, Dion, can you come on up? Dion is our principal of KW Clockwork Properties. So any questions that you want to hit him with, please feel free. And who's the next one, Xoliswa?
So next we have Ms. Diane Cross. Diane is our director at KW Clockwork. And principal. So yes, those questions.
Two principals, double trouble.
And then the next one we've got Levy.
So Levy is our MCA, which stands for the Market Center Administrator. So all your needs go to him.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, are we ready?
Anya?
Oh, sorry, Coach.
Seriously?
This is my coach. Coach Anya, please can you give her a round of applause? Let me demonstrate my love to her.
Someone's gonna get a beating.
I'm gonna get it.
You're in big trouble tomorrow.
Someone's gonna get a beating.
Okay, so we are actually opening up the panelists to all your questions that you may have. Any questions relating to how property is affecting the economy in today's world? What can you expect as a buyer? All those questions, I'm just giving you a hint to start brainstorming. What is expected in body corporate? What happens when you, like in Gina's case, how do you find a property? What are those, you know, what do you look out for? What are the demographics and all of that stuff? So,
Okay.
Xoliswa?
We have two ways we can go about this, guys.
Yes.
So we've got questions, very hard questions that we'd like to ask them. That's the first route. So we can ask the questions first, so you guys can join the discussion, or we can already give the opportunity to you guys. So how do you? Are you guys ready with your questions?
Yep.
You ready?
Oh dear.
Ready?
Be afraid.
Okay, so who's got question number one?
I think the gentleman over there.
Maybe it's a bit of a silly question, this one.
Never a silly question.
Sorry, can you give us your name? Your name?
So it's for Sandra also.
Alright.
Okay.
Yeah. So with regards to bond originators, what sort of, I know it's, what's the
That's a Hillary question, I think.
Can I just stand up here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the percentage loan that the client gets is based on the client's risk.
That's not the question, Hill.
Okay, sorry. Sorry.
What's the percentage
Can
that
we-
the bond originators get?
And who
Like-
pays
like
for
For
it?
example, an agent will get.
Yeah, I understand what you're
10%,
asking.
Or the lawyers will pay, will charge a certain amount, but what's the percentage that the bond originators get in terms of their fee?
Hillary, isn't that quite, the percentage that the bond originators get, the buyer doesn't pay for that. It's from the bank. So, we're
contracted to the bank, so the
yeah.
bank pays us.
so you guys as buyers do not get charged 1 cent to use an originator.
Not necessarily.
Sorry?
Not necessarily.
No,
The bank
100%.
is in the business of making money, so I end up paying for it.
No, the bank pays that. The bank pays the commission from their own pocket, so to speak.
You are debited with initiation fee, which is a 6,000 odd rand. Okay, but that is the bank's fee for initiation fee and the valuer's fee, because they have to pay the valuations, because they're outsourced. We are contracted to the bank, and they, if the deal never goes through, there's no commission payouts. But we contracted to the bank, and the client does not pay anything.
The buyer does not pay.
And I think the reason why the banks do pay that, because they want to encourage that the agents use the originator because they're more qualified to
Yeah.
go and apply for the bonds. So the banks, it's a separate amount. It doesn't come to your account. It's not in your initiation fees. It's not in, I know what you're trying to say, that those fees are incorporated somewhere that you pay. I promise it's not the case. They pay it separately. It's a separate, encourage them to use their banks. So the banks have got market share that they fight for. So the banks, if they don't pay the commission to the bond originators or to the agents, then they might say, well, I'm not going to use FNB, I'll use Standard Bank. So it's a commission fee that they pay so that we choose them, but the buyer does not get affected.
In the good
Through
old
them.
days, I've been in property 29 years. In the good old days, the agent themselves would go to ABSA, or at those days it was United and Allied. I don't know, you're all probably all too young to know about that. But yeah, the good old days, us as agents used to actually go and take the bond ourselves and the offer to purchase to the bank. And the bank would actually employ people that actually knew how to do mortgage origination. They would be actually employed to help clients. They don't employ people anymore. That's why the mortgage origination business has come to effect, is because the bank don't actually have staff that have the knowledge. They don't pay staff to do what they used to do in the good old days. Now we go to our originators, who actually then go to the bank for us. But the buyer does not pay 1 cent towards the origination costs of your bond. I promise you.
Absolutely. There's a question. Can I add something in? Sorry, can I add something in there? Going through a bond originator, you've got a human being behind the scenes motivating the sale, motivating the actual deal going through. When you go directly through the banks, it goes into a queue system. It goes into a hub where there isn't actually, if the computer doesn't read the ID book correctly, it gets thrown out. So going through a bond originator, there's an actual human being behind the scenes motivating the whole thing. So you get deals that go through that usually wouldn't go through if you went directly to the bank.
And the buyer does not pay. It is free to the buyer.
And it's free to the buyer, totally.
It's a
And
free service.
Yeah.
I promise you.
Did somebody charge you specifically that you're asking?
No, I have my reasons because and okay, personal experience, I've always managed to get a better deal when I do it myself versus when I use bond originators. And I'm using this, I'm asking this question as leverage when I buy my next property for me to be able to say, I need a better rate because I've saved you a certain amount. And mainly, this is probably evident from the presentation that we got for offers from the banks, but there wasn't that, maybe it was just because of time, that even the bank that would have given the lowest of the offer, we still go back there and say, but you can do better.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, absolutely.
Maybe it was because of time, so maybe.
No, so what happens is when we've got all the 4 deals, okay, we do go back to the banks when we're busy finding that's what we do. That's
Yeah, the
part
more-
of the service we do.
The mortgage originators fight for the best rate for the client.
And that's why we go to audit firms to see for the best deal. Some might have life cover in place, others might not. So then at the end, we look at the whole picture and then we decide.
No, give us a chance of it.
100%.
Thank you so much. You got my business card?
Next property, you go through Hillary.
Anybody with the next question? Anyone? Anyone? Yes, your name?
Hi, my name is Carol, and my question is on a clause in the offer to purchase agreement, right? The nomination clause. I just want you to elaborate for me, nomination. How does it work? How much time does a person has before they actually switch to the next person? If the time lapses, do we have to sign a new agreement with the new purchaser, or an addendum is going to be applicable? How does it
Are you referring to a nomination of a company or for a company to be formed, or?
Maybe the attorney.
Let's just say a plain nomination. I mean, most of us want to buy properties for investment.
Yes.
But then there are people that are buying to grow a portfolio, and
Yeah.
then there are people that want to screen the property and sell it to the next person.
Mm-hmm.
So that timeline before
Okay.
I get the property transferred to me,
I
but
see what you mean.
transfer it to the next
Okay,
one.
so
I want to put in that.
Yeah, tripartite agreement. Okay, so they're not allowed in law anymore. Unfortunately, the receiver of revenue caught on to that. What we used to do in the good old days is tripartite. I would be able to buy a property I would buy a property and I would be able to sell it on to another purchaser and not pay transfer duty myself. The other purchaser would pay the transfer duty and then would pass into the third person's name. No, the receiver of revenue unfortunately caught on to that. So tripartites are no longer allowed. All right. So you can't nominate, if you buy a property, you're going to buy it in your own name. You can't nominate another person to buy the property once you've put your name on that offer to purchase. You can say for a company to be formed, and then you have, I think it's 21 days. Trust, you can't. You've got to have a trust formed already. But no, there is no such thing anymore as being able to nominate another purchaser in order to do a tripartite agreement. That's unlawful.
What you could do is that you could buy the property and resell it to another person before you even take ownership, but then they register them simultaneously.
Yes.
So it goes from the seller into my name, but straight from my name back
Correct.
to the new buyer's name.
So I pay
But I do
transfer
pay
Yes,
transfer
you
duty.
do pay transfer
Yeah,
duty.
I can't get away with it.
Every party pays transfer duty. The receiver of revenue, there's nobody you can fool. The receiver of revenue you can't get away with. So they caught cottoned on to the tripartite agreements.
I read something about 24 hours before you can nominate the next
No.
person. There's no such
No,
thing.
no. Once you've put your name on that offer to purchase, you are purchasing that property. So you have no time, unless you're doing it for a company, but there's not many companies, shelf companies anymore. So generally people buy it in a company's name already because a company has been formed. But no, there is no 24 hours that you can say, okay, well, Diane Cross is buying it, but I've got 24 hours to change it to your name. No.
So
You-
what in the case where I'm buying at an auction, right?
Yes.
And then I'm buying, let's say, in a trust name, right?
Mhm.
I've got a trust and I'm buying the property.
Yes.
But then I decide before the transfer goes
Mhm.
on that I want to put it in my company's name. Is it like
Yep.
a transaction?
You've got to cancel the first transaction lawfully. Otherwise you will get charged double transfer duty. So you need to, the attorneys will have to cancel that transaction lawfully. So the cancellation letters will have to go through. They'll have to go to the receiver of revenue. Okay? And then we draw up another contract in the other company's name. So you don't want to be charged double transfer duty. So you can't. The problem is you're going to buy it in a trust, you might be getting a bond, for example. So that it will completely, what's the word I'm looking for? Elongate. Oops. It'll completely extend the time period. So you can't buy it in a trust's name and then buy it in a company's name 3 weeks later or 6 weeks later. Because remember, if you're going to be buying in your trust's name, the bond is going to be in that name. Okay, so then you'll have to start the whole process again. So no, you would have to buy it in the entity that you're going to buy it from the start. Did that answer adequately?
Question.
Sure.
Does that also apply on developments?
Yes.
Yes. That's where the receiver of revenue actually caught on, because people were buying an off plan, and just before
Taking transfer.
they sold it on, made a profit, and it never went into their name, and that's where they didn't pay transfer fees. That's going back, I think, 2008.
That's where the
That's when the
tripartite
receiver of
was.
revenue actually caught on. So that's a no-no. It's actually illegal now.
Anybody else with a very, yes, give us your name.
It's Prudence.
Yes, Prudence.
Yes. Firstly, thank you so much for this.
You're welcome.
I'm new in property, so I've also made a million mistakes. And this for me is actually quite enlightening. But I have a question, because I also own a youth center, so I'm an educational psychologist. And I have a growing business, and I struggle with property. So I bought a property, and so the amount of children became too much, so I had to move out. And then I made it a residential property. And I had a phobia for buying, so I started renting. But now the problem is I keep renting small, it's not really big, but for like 70,000 a month or 80,000 a month.
Sure.
So yeah, so it's just ridiculous.
You're just wasting money at the moment, yeah.
Pay somebody
So
else.
now I want to go back to buying, and I'm like, you know?
Yeah.
But I have a question, because a lot of property that's being sold is usually residential property. And if you want to change that property into a school maybe,
Commercial.
or change it into something that can accommodate your business, where can you look? And is it okay to buy it on a personal bond, or do you use the entities? Like how does it work? Which one is better, and where do you look?
No, you can buy in a personal capacity. My suggestion would be, obviously, if you're going to do a school, a creche, or whatever the case is, you're going to be doing it sort of in a business area or where this, business is close by. So you could get consent use. Okay, so consent use is asking for permission from council in order to run your school, okay, or run whatever business you've got. Remember, you've got to ask your neighbours, and everybody's got to agree. And you've got to be able to, it's got to be a public road. You can't be obviously be in a little tiny area where cars have to park, etc., etc. So consent use is probably the easiest way in order for you to run a business in a residential home and not have to go through the zoning process. Okay. It's cheaper, it doesn't cost to get consent use. But remember, consent use is not transferable. So if you were going to sell that property, so you're running a creche or whatever it is that you're running for kids, you couldn't pass on that consent use. That consent use would then fall away as soon as you sold that property, because that property would be sold as residential. Okay. But the easiest way to do it is consent use. But if you're going to do the zoning process, it takes between 8 and 12 months, maybe longer, and it can be 60 to 80, depending on how long it takes, 1,000 rand to change a residential home into a business home, or to a business property. So my obvious answer to you is buy a property close to businesses, not too close, obviously, because the kids can't be too close, and get consent use. But before you put pen to paper, go to the council and ask them if you can get consent use.
Can I just say something? Even with consent use, you still have to pay certain fees, water contribution.
They're a little bit higher, yeah.
Roads, and you pay the child as well.
Yeah. But to actually get the consent use, it's not the zoning costs to rezone.
And with the consent use, you can't remember one day when you sell the property, that's not going to be an asset, because that car might not get business rights on that property, because you won't get consent use if you're going to trade over counter. You'll never get consent use. You've got to get business rights. So if it's long term, then I suppose that's okay. But if you're going to keep it as a business and want to be profitable at the end of the term to sell the property, you can't sell it that out of consent use,
because it's
that
not
person might
transferable.
do something else. So
it's not transferable. Yeah.
Rather try and get it into business.
At the beginning.
Business for.
Yeah, but you could use consent use first and then apply for rezoning.
You'll get more money out selling it
as a rezoned, as a commercial, as a business property.
than you would as a residential home.
My first school was residential one, sorry.
No, please, carry.
So it is zoned for business, it's got business rights, but I have residential rights as well.
Okay.
My first school, and then the second school is just consent use.
There we go. at the break or afterwards, you can have a chat. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Pleasure.
Yes.
I have a very to initial question. I think you answered it partially, but never really went to it.
Okay, your mask is sorry, so you don't mind.
So she asked a question around whether she should be buying it personally or via
Or in a
via a company, and there was no.
Sorry, my apologies, I did miss that. Honestly, there's very little advantages of buying in a company or a PTY or anything at the moment. I would personally buy it in my personal capacity, because capital gains tax, once you sell it, is a big issue. Remember, because obviously, you get charged from Rand 0, and it's full on with capital gains tax. Personally, if you're going to have one business or two businesses, I would do it in my personal capacity myself. You don't have to do audited financials, you don't have to do all that good stuff to keep your company going year on year on year on year. So in the good old days, there was lots of advantages of buying a company. These days, there's not that many advantages.
I think the only advantage that would be, if you wanted to ask what advantage it is, if I buy a property and I'm a vet vendor, and it's in the company's name, it'll be very lucrative for me to go and sell that property to another vet vendor, because then we can zero-rate the VAT. So there's no transfer duty payable at all. If it's a going concern from one vet vendor to the next. So that happens quite often, but then you won't have to pay the VAT over. But eventually along the line, if a person's going to buy the property and he doesn't want to buy it in the business, then whoever's got the property last, he's going to have to pay the VAT over that originally was charged.
Yeah, so there's not really, in my opinion, any great advantage of buying in a company's name anymore.
And also, sorry, if you apply for finance in a company name,
It's
the deposit is bigger.
and a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
So from the buyer's perspective, right? So she has gone through the whole process. Let's say down the line, 10 years down the line, she's selling that property. And as office, right? Yeah. So what happens is there any financial penalties that happen if these buyers have to, she went through the whole process. So if I'm buying it and I want to put it back into a residential home, is there any?
No. No. There's no penalties if you've. Are you talking about consent use? If you're going to move it from consent use to
mostly financial penalties.
No.
Okay.
No.
So I could buy a business property in my own name, and there will be no penalties on that.
No, there's no penalties whatsoever.
Sorry,
Yes.
Di, can I just please make a note of the questions, because we're getting quite a few. So we're going to ask those two, and then we're going to note them down, and then you're going to answer them together. Mr.
Diane?
Yes.
I just heard now you mentioned that it's rather favorable to purchase a property in your own personal capacity instead of business use. In terms of the capital gains tax,
Yes.
wouldn't you be exempt on the costs that you pay towards the property? Should you be buying it using a company?
No. If you're buying a property as a company with capital gains tax, there is no exemption whatsoever. You are capital gains tax from Rand 0. Okay, so there is no exemption on capital gains tax if you're buying it bought in a company's name or selling in a company's name.
Even if I go buy 5 residential properties and I live in the one, and I then sell the other 4, I'll have to, as a residential property, no commercial business, I have to pay capital gains on each one of those properties.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay capital gains on the property that you live in.
Your primary residence.
Your primary residence.
2 million, up to 2 million on your primary residence. If it's in your personal capacity, you are exempt. If it's in a business capacity or on a juristic capacity, Rand 0, you're not exempt at all. You pay capital gains from Rand 0.
Irrespective, you're running expenses, are those not taken into consideration?
No, Rand 0. If it's owned in a company's name, there is no exemption on capital gains tax. Because it's a company. It's a company. You don't live in it. Yeah. So.
But I think we also must get carried away with capital gains tax, because all it is if I buy the property for $1 million and I sell it for 1.5 million, that 500,000 profit that I've made, and let's take another 100,000 off for rates and taxes and upkeep that I've done, expenses. So the 400,000 rand just gets added onto my annual salary. And that might push me from a 25% to a 30% bracket. So it's not a huge amount, it's...
Yeah, but it's there, but it's still from Rand 0 if it's a company's name.
Sorry.
I have a property
Yes.
in Glen.
We'd love to sell it for you.
I've been telling him. I've been telling him
It's
that.
not my property. It's far away. So I plan to run an NPO from my property. Do I have to go to council and ask for business rights?
What kind of NPO are you going to be running?
It's going to be educational.
Is it going to be a lot of traffic? Is it going to be
No.
people pulling up?
No. I'll be the principal running a big show from my house.
So you're going to be sole person. There's not going to be any traffic or any.
No.
No, I don't think you need to know.
No.
So I don't have to go.
No, you won't have to do business rights now.
Okay.
You're running a business from home. You're one individual, so you won't have to even get consent use if there's no incoming traffic, or you're running a non-profit organisation from home.
Okay.
So no, you will not have to get business rights.
Okay.
Are you limited to the number of people? Is it
Yeah, no. If you're going to have lots of traffic coming in and out, then you would have to go consent use, which would be my recommendation first. And if you're going to have lots of people, then you have to get business rights. But in a residential built-up area, you're not going to get business
And
rights.
now the next question I think will be people, because I have a private library that I want to make available to people.
To the public.
Yeah, so that will be traffic.
Then you might need consent use. Although, would you be charging the public to come and look at the library? You would.
And good books and
Fantastic. Then I think you would. Then I think you would need consent use. No, but you won't get business rights. You won't get business rights in a residential prime area. Where are you situated in England? I'll need the address.
East Road right at the top.
East Road.
Elise.
Oh, Elise Road. That's a residential area. So no, you're not going to get business rights in the middle of a residential area. They're not going to give you. Well, you're going to pay 1,800,000 rand to get business rights. Number one. Number two, you're not going to be able to get it because all your residents around you are going to say no. So, I would do it.
Can I just do it under the
I would.
No.
I would get consent use if you're going to have a lot of traffic coming to your home.
Yeah, I'll just do it with my friends and family.
Well, then,
See, the council's got a map.
You're charging.
you don't charge friends and family.
You're charging for your books. They're pretty good books.
Definitely charge with my friends on negotiation.
There we go.
Yes, Prudence.
I think talking about under the radar, I think that's I think that's the reason. I think I'm an entrepreneur and I don't work for anyone. So first and foremost, buying property, I need to pay myself a salary, and it's just so much admin. So sometimes I end up buying property in the black market, if I can say, like, you know.
Undercover.
Yeah.
Okay, just talk to us. We'll teach you how to do a property.
Yes, I was actually about to say that. What are some of the things that I can look out for? What are some of the law structures that I can use to protect myself?
Well, Prudence,
Because-
may I ask, have you had any issues with buying under? Yes, I'm sure you have lots. Okay, so I have no idea. No, I'm sure we register, but we just don't go through an agent. Am I correct? Okay. So an agent is there to help you. We're not. I know everybody thinks that we've all got. The public has got a perception that we are overpaid. We charge too much. Blah de blah de blah. We work really hard, and if we don't sell your house, we don't get paid. So we do the same amount of work for house A to house B. House B we might not sell, but we've done just as much work. We've taken 40 buyers through there. We've done everything we've needed to do. So, yes, a lot of people try and go around an agent because they don't want to pay agency fees. My experience, and I've been in the game for 29 years, a lot of the sellers that have said that they want to sell privately have come to me and said, "Oops, I've made a mistake," because they have no clue on the whole process, the legalities of actually buying and selling. So yes, we do charge 5 to 7.5%, depending on what we negotiate. We are very good. We're about 6.2%, I think, on average, Hedy. So, but we are worth it. We are estate agents, and that is our salary, and that's what we do. We are professionals. In the good old days, in 2008 and before, anybody could be an estate agent. If you're retired, what we're going to do? I'm going to become an estate agent. If I didn't have anything else to do, what am I going to do? I'm going to become an estate agent. Because you only had to be an estate agent for a year and then you were qualified. Now we have got such professional guidelines, we've all got to pass tests, we've got to go through all this rigmarole. So it has decreased the industry from 85,000 registered estate agents to 19,000. Okay, so not everybody wanted to do all of those qualifications and get to be qualified estate agents. So yes, I do believe in my heart, and I've been doing this for a long time, I haven't swapped jobs, this is all I've ever done. Estate agents give huge value to the client.
I think
I
also
want
just
to elaborate on that because we do have sellers in here. For sell by owners, there is a very, very importance in using a real estate agent. And I think I would like Anya to just give us like 3 major reasons as to why it's important. Because you must remember, as a real estate agent, you have to go through education. You have to have the license. There's a lot involved in being a realtor. It's not just, oh, okay, real estate is fun and it's big monies or all of that. No, there's a lot of procedures, there's a lot of learning, there's a lot of education that goes behind it, and also relationship. So, Anya, can you give the audience 3 important reasons as to why you need to use a realtor and not go the back door?
Well, that's probably the yes.
Before you answer, I just want to ask a question so you can answer it with the statement. So, I met a buyer a few days back, a seller, I met a seller a few days back, and he doesn't want to go through an agent, right? Hence, I'm asking, what are some of the
Pitfalls.
But why does he want to go through an agent?
The buyer doesn't want to go through
The seller.
The seller, you mean?
The seller.
Why
And I really
not?
want the property.
Okay, has he given you a declaration on the property? Do you know what's wrong with the property? Do you know what's
Disclosure?
a disclosure?
No, it's just,
No.
you know, it's
Oh.
you know, it's just those things. But
One of
you
those.
know that there's there might be I mean, the property I'm in now, it leaks in summer.
I'm sure it does.
Here he goes. You know what the problem is? A lot of sellers say they want to have it open, the property open to a lot of agents, and that's where they go open mandate, apart from sole mandate. The problem with the open mandate, you must remember, we are in Dower Glen. There's a pool of buyers in Dower Glen, say 5,000 buyers looking in Dower Glen. But there's how many agents in Dower Glen? Agencies. It doesn't mean that every single agency has got 5,000 buyers, 5,000 buyers, 5,000. It's exactly the same buyers. Now, an open mandate, it's quite clear. It's nobody's responsibility. Do you know what agents do when they take an open mandate?
Nothing.
Not only nothing, they leverage off the leads that come in on that open mandate, because that open mandate can be sold by anybody under their nose before they even bring in an offer to the seller. So what they do is they leverage off the leads that come in on that open mandate, because it's newly listed. Remember, when it's newly listed, it's right at the top of the portals that are advertising, Property 24, private property. So it goes out to all the alerts in that criteria that they've put in, and they take those leads and they sell their sole mandates. And it's a fact. I've been in the game also 20 years, and that's what happens. Open mandate, nobody's responsibility. If you go onto Property 24 and go right, it says if you go and look Dower Glen, 1 out of 10 pages, go to page 10 and go and have a look. Every single mandate will show you when it was listed. Now, property on the market for 12 months, what does that mean? It's not selling, it's overpriced, but there's 100 agents working on it. Sole mandate, you've got an agent that has got a responsibility. You hire, as a seller, you hire an agent to do a job. And what is the agent's job? Is to sell your property at the most quickest time at the best price.
And least convenience.
Yeah, with the least inconvenience. We share, Keller Williams, we've got worldwide, we've got 290,000 agents, or we in 54 countries. In South Africa, we've got 20 market centers. Our culture is sharing. We share. We're happy to share. I think 50% of our deals with Remax, with, I was going to say Walking Dog. One Jack Russell, sorry, Steve. We do it all the time. We're happy to share. But the thing is, a sole mandate, the seller is not inconvenienced by having 100 million agents calling them all the time. And you don't know what people are going through your property.
It's very emotional.
It's totally.
Yeah.
And you can fire the agent within 48 hours if they haven't done their job.
Well, with
now,
us.
isn't that wonderful?
With us.
With us. With us.
The
With us.
I think to answer your question, Prudence, I think you should always go through an agent because
Absolutely.
we're looking after everybody's best interests. You can go and buy the house that the roof leaks every summer, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're not getting a disclosure. You're not getting any sort of comfort that you're buying a property that's actually going to be standing in 6 months' time. You know what I'm saying? There could be all sorts of problems with that property. And yes, the seller might not want to pay the agent's commission. I understand that. My suggestion, then you say to him, I'll bring an agent in and I'll pay the commission. Because I know I want the disclosure. I want the peace of mind that that agent is going to work and make sure that my interests are covered.
Absolutely.
We don't always have to work only for the seller, hey? If you're going to bring us in as a buyer's agent, then we can work on your behalf as well.
I think what you must understand from our point of view, we take real estate as a business, as an individual agent. We grow our business by working with referrals. So if I don't look after my buyer and my seller, you're not going to use me again. If I give you great service, I want all the people that you know to bring me their referrals, their properties, their buyers. So that's how we grow our business, by giving excellent service. And it's not just mushy talk. I don't want to door knock for the rest of my life as an agent. I want people to phone me and say, hi Dion, I'm ready to sell, and I come and see them. And I can only do that by giving great service, so you can go tell everybody how good I am. And I think there are a lot of good agents out there that work on that concept, because they will go out of their way to make sure your league gets sorted out. Because if we don't, you know, you'll go tell 100 people how bad we are. But if I do one good thing, you might tell 4 people. But that's fine. Those 4 people I will service as well. I'll sell a property to them, or they can buy a property through me. And if you've got that mindset, then to me it's a no-brainer not to use an agent, because you can pick up the phone anytime and say, listen, Dion, by the way, a friend of mine asked me about this question. Do you think you should go buy the property? Then we'll give you that advice, because you are a client.
I think also, just to add on to what has been addressed by my colleagues here, the estate agent's main job is pretty much negotiating deals every day. That's their main job, negotiating and making deals every day. So they will make sure that they get the seller the best possible profit on that deal, and they'll fight for their commission. So if they get the best possible price, meaning that the agent will get the proper commission that they're looking for. Secondly, again, they reduce the pitfalls that has mentioned. The amount of paperwork that's involved on an offer to purchase. There's so many mistakes that can happen if a seller is doing it on their own. But if they engage an agent, then that agent will be able to ensure that they guide the seller, both the seller and the buyer, amicably throughout that sale. And then thirdly, in terms of negotiating as well, remember there is the code of conduct that binds the estate agent. So that code of conduct, the agent looks out for both the seller and the buyer. Both your interests are looked out for. So in that case, the agent will make sure that they pretty much cater for everybody's needs and nobody feels cheated. And that's why part of our belief system, we've got the win-win or no deal situation. It's because we know that we're representing both the sellers and the buyer. So it's also the seller taking advantage, or not taking advantage, but leveraging off the customers that estate agent has. The marketing know-how, knowing what's happening in the suburb. So those trends or the numbers that are taking place within the suburb, they can share that information with either the buyer or the seller, and then that informed decision can be made from that.
It's a lot more transparent.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The thing is that an agent has to look after their reputation.
Yeah.
So if something goes wrong, who does the buyer blame? The agent. If something goes wrong, who does the seller blame? The agent. So we try our utmost to make sure 95% that nothing goes wrong. Listen, there's always going to be something that is missed, or something that happens, or life happens, things happen. But that's what our reputation is built on, is integrity, and we try and do the best we can for both parties. Because remember, our buyers become our sellers. Our buyers are moving. It's a very emotional thing to buy a property, a very emotional thing to sell a property. And when there's money involved, there's always going to be emotions. So we try and act as a conduit between the two parties and try and make it as pleasant as an experience as we can.
Devon, the roof leaks in summer.
The roof leaks in summer. No, I just
Yes.
wanted to say that's exactly why home inspection exists. That's why it's there to help the agents generate those leads, because it does help with the sole mandates as well.
Absolutely.
But it absolutely does, because people know what's wrong with the property, informed. So that's what I wanted to say. It's just it helps you sleep at night.
It does.
Because there's so many things that can happen that you as the agents, you've got an important job. You know, you just said.
Yeah, no. We're
it's
not
this
roof
and it's that and
specialists.
it's this and, you know, all those things. And
Yeah.
That's exactly why home inspection was brought in, just to help you guys.
No, I understand that. We are estate agents. We rely on the disclosure from the seller. We're not going to crawl up into the roof. I mean, me crawling up into the roof. That's not going to happen.
Some of us have.
Some of us probably have, but no, I'm not going to be crawling up into the roof and checking the roof trusses, etc., etc. So we have to rely on what the seller tells us. That's why we do a disclosure or declaration, whichever one you call it. And if something should happen thereafter, remember that the buyer's got 5 years to claim, hey? 5 years in order to claim for anything that was latent. So he's got to prove that the seller knew about it. So yeah, it's a lifetime. 5 years is a very long time. So the relationship has to be there between us and the buyer and the seller.
Yeah, that's where we come in. You know, you find them when they're the happiest. You know, when they're searching for this property and they find it, and it's beautiful. It's all those emotions and it's money.
Yep.
And this and that.
And they move in.
When they call us, you know, they call us. We find them at their saddest. You know, we show up there, and the first thing they tell us is, "The agent promised me this,
This,
the
that,
agent
and the
told
other,
me
yeah.
that, and the agent is getting it in his neck. You know,
Yeah.
it's this is wrong and that is wrong. You know."
See, we don't live in the property. We've got to take it. We've got to take it from the mouth of the seller, obviously.
There's a question at the back, the lady at the back there.
Colleen.
That's Colleen.
Sorry,
It's a bit bright here.
I got this light here in my eye.
I just wanted to say from an agent's perspective, okay, is that, you know, everybody's talking about the business side of it and what you need from the business side. Once we get in touch with the buyer and the seller, that buyer and seller then actually becomes our family.
Yeah.
Because we have to then engage with the likes of Hillary, with the likes of the divines, you know, to make your journey a smooth and a memorable one. And in between all of these rocky roads, we have to be fighting your battles with the seller or for the seller with the buyer. But in the end, we actually all become a family. And that is why what Diane and Jan were saying, that in the end, it's not only just about the buyer or the seller, it's actually all integrating into one, and we all actually network as a family, and that you actually even, like as you are here today, that you actually welcome through our doors 24/7.
Absolutely.
Clients for life.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Yes.
much, Colleen. So we've got 2 questions.
So we've got 1, 2, 3
Sure.
questions.
Tough audience.
That's going to be the last round.
Alright, cool.
Alright, so while we're still on the agents and the age and the benefits and everything, I'd like to point out that the reason why sellers or literally sellers run away from estate agents is because of the costs, right? So my question is going to be a two-parter. I would like to know, whilst we're trying to cut down on the costs of paying your commission, making enough money for ourselves, the percentage that you charge,
Yeah.
is it controlled by
Yeah.
governing authority? Is it a state agency?
Yeah.
Or how do you come about that?
Okay, so it's a recommended tariff. It's not controlled per se. It's a recommended tariff from the Estate Agents Affairs Board, 7.5% plus VAT. Okay, that is the recommended tariff.
So it's a recommended amount for any property?
Yes.
Or is it along with the property range?
No, it's a standard. Any property is a standard recommended rate. Okay, but having said that, obviously it's depending on what offer we bring to the table. If you're going to put your property on for 3 million, or give us a mandate for 3 million, and we all know it's only worth 2 million, and we work on that property for 6 months, and we eventually bring you a buyer of 2.2 million, for example, and we've given you feedback, and we've worked, and we've brought, and we've slogged, and we've marketed, I'm coming to you and saying to you, I deserve 7.5%. Because I've actually brought you the best possible offer the market is going to give you. Okay? But obviously it's a recommended tariff, but it is my agent's salary. So they don't get paid, hey? My agents don't get paid a salary.
That means negotiable,
It
right?
is negotiable,
Are you
yeah.
open to negotiation?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, everything in life is negotiable. But having said that, depending on the service, if I'm going to give you a little analogy. So you work for a boss every month. You go to work, you're on time, you work. And then you go to your boss at the end of the month and say, did I deserve my salary? You don't do that. An agent is exactly the same. We work, you guys, everybody thinks we just earn big money. But I'd love all of you to become estate agents tomorrow and see how difficult it really is. So we work and we work and we work, and some houses we earn on, some houses we don't earn on, and we do the same procedure day in and day out. We take a lot of appointments that don't pitch up, and it is hard work. But we don't have to go, as an agent, as an employee, you don't have to go to your boss every month and say, may I have my salary? As an estate agent, we've got to basically then go to the seller and say, okay, we have got you a little bit less than you wanted, but can I earn my salary? Because it is their salary. So yes, we are negotiable. But I always say to a seller that says to me, when they phone me and say, I only want to pay your agent 4%. So I say to my seller, well, what service did my agent not give you? So if they say to me they didn't do this, that and the other, I'll go, fine, then you can pay them 4%, if that's the truth. But yes, we are negotiable, but to a limit. It is my agent's salary.
You'll probably find, if you've got a very good agent, that you'd hardly ever negotiate with the commission, because it's not just when we sell the house. There's a whole process afterwards, till registration, which might take 3 months, where they make sure that the cancellation figures are asked for, that the deposit's been paid, that everything has to be fixed in the house has been fixed. We don't just sell the house and then walk away. I think if you do that, you're a bad agent, you won't get a referral from it. So you'll probably find good agents seldom negotiate the commission, or the seller doesn't even ask for it, because you know the guy's done an excellent job, and when we finish with the process, the agent doesn't run away. It's still a long task that we have to do to make sure the end result that you're still happy with me after 3 months, because I want your referral. So if we say, like I did say, if the market value of the property is 1.2 million, for example, and I bring you an offer of 1.1, that's not a market related price. And the buyer's put an offer let's say the market value is 1.2, you get an offer of $1 million. I push the buyer up to 1.1. So, and I told the seller we will sell at 1.2, and I don't, because of various reasons, interest rates, economy. Then the buyers come up 100,000, the sellers come down, and so will the agent also then be negotiable. It'll be silly for us not to be negotiable at that point. But I mean, if the buyer puts in a very good offer, and we've done our work, then there's very little room for negotiation.
I think also just to add on to that.
Sorry, I was just say one thing, because you must understand, I've got that buyer, and I haven't got the buyer for one day. I've been running with him for 3 months. I know that he wants your house because he likes I know he likes the features, the entertainment area. And if you then say to him, no, I'm only going to pay 3% commission, I'd much rather take that buyer to another property that's similar and get full commission. Exactly. Because I've been working with a buyer for months.
Sounds
you might
terrible,
think as a seller, I've just got him on the internet today and I've brought him to property, now I sell it, and now he must pay commission. But it's not true. I've been working with him day in, day out, getting the right property, and it suits him. It takes time. So I'd rather than walk away and go take it to another property and get paid properly.
Alright, so thank you. So when you negotiate, or you do get your full amount, when does it become due and payable?
On registration.
Only.
Once the property transfers from the seller's name to the purchaser's name. That's the only time we get paid. It is earned on bond approval, etc., but we only take our commission once the property is transferred from the seller's name to the buyer's name.
And if I don't qualify for the bond?
No, then it wouldn't register, then we don't earn. You see, that's the whole thing. We go through the whole process with the buyers. We pre-qualify, we do our best, we take you to 40 different homes, etc. But yes, you may not qualify for whatever reason. There's something in the bank that we didn't see or whatever the case is. Then we earn nothing on you. We earn nothing on that sale. So we might, out of 10 properties that we are trying to sell 2. But we sell them well. And we do everything in our power to make sure that all the parties are looked after. But no, if you don't qualify for your bond, then we don't earn any commission. You're not held liable for our com.
With what Diane is saying, I just want to add, if I was a seller, and yes, I'm an agent, I've been in the game for 20 years. If I was a seller, I'd rather, if I'm not an agent, I'd rather hire an agent that's not willing to negotiate their commission, because I know they're not going to negotiate
your
my
sell
house
price.
And people don't
There's
realize
also
that.
an issue.
People don't realize that. You want an agent that's going to fight for your price. And if they're willing to give away their commission,
Right, on the
what are they
onset,
going to do
yeah.
with your house?
So I think that's
It's reality. It's reality. We've seen it all the time.
So that's why I think it's important to engage an agent, because they
That's what
also
we
know
do.
the market trends, they know the numbers, what's happening in your area. Let's discuss the numbers, let's price the property correctly from the onset, so that then we get you the best possible price and everybody gets paid
Yeah, agreed.
the exceptional amount.
I think
I'm sorry, some agencies charge 4%.
Yeah. Or 3% or 2%.
But those agencies are also, they're principal agents. So they don't split with as an agent, I have to split with my company and there's costs and other things. Whereas those people can charge it because it's like a panel they're selling. So they don't split with anybody else. So that's why they can charge the 3 or 4%.
And also they don't give you the service that
They also give you the service or the marketing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And guys, just remember, I'm not going to go to a backstreet doctor and go to him and say, please, look at I've got a huge condition on my face. Can you tell me what it is?
Yeah.
I'm going to a GP that's registered and professional, and I want to go to a professional. That's what we do every day. We sell homes. It's our business. As a layman on the street, you guys don't know the legalities. You don't know what could go wrong, what may go wrong. That's what we do every single day. That's why we get paid.
I think there's one more question. Did I say?
Oh no, there's quite a few.
So mine wasn't for the panel, it was for the detective, the home detective.
Oh, yes, fine.
I wanted to ask,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. It's just
sorry. I wanted to ask you about pricing. I understand houses vary in sizes, but what are we sort of looking at?
Well, it's actually a 20-minute discussion right there, but I can tell you is that when we started, we did do per square meter, but that works out too much for everybody, so we just do per room. And it starts, well, a bachelor apartment is 1,650, and then you get a full home inspection that's 3 to 5 bedrooms, 1 to 2 bathrooms, that's around 3,200 rand.
It's not bad.
Oh, that's a lot.
Not bad.
No, peace of mind, man. It's peace of mind and just sleep. You know, that's the big thing.
Sorry, so you can ask the question.
So yes, I'm still new in the property game. I would love to also branch out into townships, and with the research that I've made, most sellers are actually comfortable with selling their houses without doing any rewiring and all those stuff. So as an agent, what's the best decision that I could take to actually sell the house, or do I actually take the house to reselling it?
It's illegal. You have to get a COC on the house. You have to declare it. So it will be very dangerous to not do those things, because the purchaser is going to move into the house and find out that the plugs aren't working, the earth leakage is not working. Those are problems that can cause a fire. So I know they might be doing it, but it's somewhere along the line, someone's going to get hurt. I can guarantee you that. Am I answering your question or not?
The seller is actually comfortable with doing that and doesn't mind having the defects being mentioned when selling the property. Can I still do that? So that if they want the buyer to actually be the one fixing everything, they're actually trying to get rid of it.
So on the declaration, I fill in the third bedroom has got a leak, the fourth bedroom has got damp. I declare that, but I also say to the buyer, I am not going to fix that. That's why I got the house on this price. Then the buyer can decide, okay, I can see there's damp, I can see there's a leak. He can then go find out what it cost, and then he'll also know, because buyers are very clued up today with the internet. They know what the prices are more or less in a certain area. So they're not stupid. It was not back in the day where you didn't have the information. There's tons of information. And the buyer can decide, well, it's still a good price, even though it's going to cost me 25 or 30,000 rand to fix that dam. But as long as you declare from a seller, then you're fine.
I think there's also a term, voetstoets, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, and that term basically is just saying you're buying the property as is. However, the declaration or the disclosure then comes into effect, and on that disclosure, that's where the seller has a...
As long as it's not
has a
purposely hidden by the seller.
Purposely hidden.
If it's purposely hidden by the seller, it can be proven. That is a latent defect. And if it's, then we get to litigation, then it gets ugly. But if it can be proven, then that's a problem.
If I can also add on, if there are buyers in this room, there are some agencies that do not have the declaration yet because it hasn't been promulgated yet. So rather make sure that if you do go buy a house and there's offer to purchase, if it hasn't got a declaration, be very wary of carrying on with the offer to purchase. Rather ask the agent, I know you haven't got a declaration, but I'd like to you get one from me, make up one, and I want the seller to tell me what is wrong with the house. Be very careful not to sign off without a declaration.
And it protects both parties. It protects both parties, the seller and the buyer.
And the agent.
And the agent.
We're all protected with a declaration.
Everybody's protected with a declaration.
Prudence.
Okay, just one more question. I know
That's
that
fine, no
we
problem.
covered time.
Not at all.
But I just wanted to ask, in cases where you do buy property and there's a lot of things wrong with it, and obviously certain things you need to fix now, and you happen to fix some of the things, can you get your money back somehow?
No. Unless you can prove it was latent defects, it wasn't disclosed. It gets, guys, you must remember, if it goes to litigation, it gets very expensive. So it's buyer beware. Whenever you buy a property, please remember the words buyer beware, okay? Because you're buying a property as is, footstool, as you've seen it. So if you can see something with a naked eye, you're buying it as it is. So you need, when you go and buy a property, and not a lot of buyers do this, you've got to go and check that the toilet's flush. And I know it's very difficult when you walk into somebody's home to go and flush the toilet. But that kind of thing, it's buyer beware. So you're buying the property as you've seen it with a naked eye. So no, you will not, if you've seen the defect when you've bought the property, and when you put pen to paper, and you didn't put into your offer that you would like the seller to fix this, that, and the other, remember the seller doesn't have to do that. But if you didn't put the special conditions in there, you've bought the property as you've seen it.
And on our declaration, it says there, plumbing all good working order.
Yeah.
So that'll cover you on a toilet, for example, that's not working. That's part of plumbing. So you are covered.
Like Dion said, the Property Practitioner Act, that's the one that is promulgating the actual whole declaration. It hasn't gone through 100% yet. In our office, we do not sign offers off without
Until
a
the signed
declaration.
declaration, yeah.
We've already made a standard
There's a lady at the
procedure in
back.
our office.
We are running out of time.
No, we're still fine. It's 7:10. We're fine.
It's fine.
All right. We had
No, we got the time in the world.
Okay, we have Gina, and then we'll come to you.
Okay,
The
I just
gentleman
want
also
to.
wants to ask a question.
Okay, all right. So just a quick one. The second property that I bought, I first rented it with an
Option to buy.
option to buy. But there is a clause that the receiver of revenue say that you have to pay the
Transfer duty within 6 months.
But no one told me that.
Okay.
So I had to pay a penalty.
No.
Because I did.
Not if you didn't buy it. Did you buy the property?
I did buy the property, but
You bought
but
the property, you
I
didn't rent it.
No, I did. I rented it with an option to buy.
No.
But what?
So did you
No,
do
once you've done
installments?
the penalty clause is only if you have signed an offer to purchase
I did sign the offer to purchase because I was.
and it was accepted by the seller.
Accepted by the
6
seller.
months. Then you've got a penalty.
Who had to tell me that? Because
The attorney should really
there
have.
was no ways that would have been cleared within 6 months because there was an objection from
The attorney
neighbours
should
and
have.
it needed to go through the process of consent use and all of that, and it was never going to get done within 6 months.
I think the two should say that because they pay for the
The
transfer
attorney
duty
should
to
have
the
told you.
SARS. So, and they get the receipt
Yeah,
back,
it's a
so they
six-
should have told you.
Yeah, so the attorney should have informed you of that, unfortunately, yes. Yeah, 6 months and you get penalised. that's fine.
Footsteps and patent defects and latent defects.
Yeah.
Right? So the thing that you gave an example of flashing the toilets, is flashing the toilet, is it?
Okay, so buyer beware means you've got to check things. Thanks, Fitz. So, okay, patent is visibly, you can see it with the naked eye.
I mean, I'm not going to see that the toilet doesn't flush.
No, but you should flush it anyway, just to make sure. You should flush it to make sure, yeah.
So if the curtain's hanging in the bedroom, you should move the curtains away
you
and
should.
see it is there.
You should move it.
Because you're buying, you're spending $1 million, 2, 3, 4 million on a property, so...
So there's a situation I just want to ask. So
Sure.
I bought a house, right?
Mhm.
And then the kitchen tap was loose. They glued it up with that, I don't know, like this or something. So when you look at it, it's actually okay. You open it, it's working. But then a few weeks after moving in, then the whole glue thing is getting loose. And now when I ask what's happening, they say it foots to
Yeah, by the way.
Is it really?
I think what you must
But
also...
they covered it up. I mean,
Well, it
covered
depends.
enough for me
Did they
to
cover
just
it?
be able to check and walk away.
Yeah, that could be proven as a latent defect, but unfortunately, to prove a latent defect, you've got to prove that the seller knew about it. Okay, so so you've got to go to litigation, so it's not worth it. For a tap in the kitchen, it's just not worth it. You're going to go, you're going to fix it, it's going to
You must
cost
also
you.
understand, you are buying a second-hand property.
It's not
in a
brand
way.
new, yeah.
So,
Remember, it's not about not worth it. It's about what else do they tap
No,
into.
100%.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
It
100%.
could be the tap now, and then 3 months later, I figure out it's something even worse.
Yeah, yeah. Again, like Dion said, you're not buying a brand new home. Okay, so we do get a lot of buyers that move into a property and say, okay, there's 6 nails in the wall and a chip here and this. Guys, you're not buying a brand new home. You're buying a second-hand home. Okay, so some things you are going to have to fix. A tap, for example. It's going to.
You have to disclose it to me. Tell me that
Yeah.
the tap is loose, and then we had to do it.
Was there a disclosure?
It wasn't.
Did you work through an agent?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. An agent.
Yeah, there was an agent.
It definitely wasn't us.
Was it 3%.com agent?
Guys, you must always have a disclosure. You've got to check, because in the disclosure it says, are all plumbing, cisterns, toilets, taps, everything in working order, and it's disclosed. When we do a mandate with our sellers, we sit with our sellers and say to them, please let us know if there's anything in the property, and there's a whole list. Electrical, plumbing, tile cracks, swimming pools, there's a whole list. It's a standard document. So then we say to them, is the pool pump working? Yes, it is. Okay, has there been any damp problems? Have you fixed any damp? Are the toilets working? Is there any cracks in the cisterns? Are there any cracks in the basins? Any cracked tiles? Any burnt carpets? We go through a huge list. Because remember, we as agents don't live in that property. We don't open the cupboard doors and go and look for damp in the top cupboard in the right-hand corner. So we don't live in the property, so we don't know exactly what's going on there. So when we do a mandate with our sellers, we sit down and say, please, Mr. Seller, disclose to us everything you know about this property. We put it down, and then when we do an offer to purchase, we give you, as the purchaser, the disclosure form, which was signed by the seller when we took the mandate, and we go through point by point by point by point. It does not mean that the seller is going to fix that cracked cistern or the cracked basin or the wobbly tap or whatever the case is, but we make you aware that that is a problem in the home. And then you know what you are buying. Hence why you should buy with an agent and not buy yourself.
no question at the
Keller
back.
Williams, that's it.
I like that.
The question at the back, Jonah?
Yeah.
So this is more of a banking question. How would it work if, let's say you've got a portfolio of 10 properties and you want to leverage off the equity on the properties, so let's say they're each R1 million each and the valuation has gone up by R1 million, so if you're leveraging R10 million with the bank, do they check your credit check, your credit history, or do
with the use of properties as collateral.
Borrowing money against equity.
You can raise another bond on it, but they won't use it.
No,
as
they won't use the other property as collateral. They'll actually, sometimes if you've got an outstanding bond on those other properties, it's actually to your detriment.
Yeah.
Because they take that outstanding bond amount and take it off what you can afford. So it's actually sometimes works to your detriment, not to your advantage. But no, they won't use other properties as collateral.
So should we maybe look at an access bond then?
That's what Hillary's saying. If you can get the access, yeah.
facility, then you can take money out of that bond. But remember that they'll look at the whole picture.
And the
of what is
affordability.
Yeah. And if you've got a property, let's just say you've got 5 properties, you had a bond registered at R1 million, and you've still got them open, they haven't been closed, and you're buying another property. They will take that R5 million plus your new property as your commitment, even though those balances are paid.
So it works out.
So you would need to close it, otherwise draw the money out that bond.
Pleasure. Any other questions?
I had some questions that I'll leave in after.
No, you can ask.
So I'm currently sort of a chairperson of an NGO that focuses on rural schools, right? Which we probably monitor them and all of that. But this industry is not sort of the chef. We don't know much about it. So what are some of the barriers to entry, and what are some of the requirements for someone to get in? So that when I go there, then I can also advise some of our learners in rural schools who don't have access to anything to know that there is, they can do this. What do they need to get in?
Oh, are you talking about in non-profit organizations?
No, yeah, we currently running a non-profit organization that mentors about few rural schools. So
Yeah, I definitely go to the government and see what kind of subsidies they give on non-profit organizations.
No, it's not that. So I want to know that how do I advise the learners, learners to get into the industry?
Into the industry?
As an agent.
Give them our phone numbers, we'll help.
Yeah, we've got the...
No, so the answer to your question is they are very welcome to, we've got training sessions every single day in the office. KW is known as a trading company. They're one of the best trading companies in the States. So there's in-depth training from novice to the most experienced agent. Is to maybe work with an agent over a weekend, for example, so they can get a taste of what the industry is about. They can come to our training sessions that we've got just to see what it's about. But it's probably one of the best, in my opinion, the best business to be in. Because you're your own boss, the amount of work you put in, you get that money back tenfold. It's not like a job where I work and I get 20,000 a month and in a month I still get 20,000 rand. It's really an awesome industry to be in. Very hard work, it's very simple, but it's hard work.
Yeah, but what you miss there is the schools that I deal with, it's in the Pompo, the kids, the reason we're doing it is because the kids have no internet, have no services whatsoever. So the only resource they have is me and my team that takes the information from here to them. Unless if what we're suggesting is that you give me your numbers and the next time I go there, then I take you with.
Yeah, no, we can help them.
That we don't mind at all, and I really mean that. I will drive to wherever to go and do that.
Okay.
Then on the other side, the flip side that I will say about the industry is because you don't earn a salary, you need at least 6 months income to carry yourself while you're learning. So it's difficult to get into because of that, the fact that you need some capital in the beginning. So for them it'll be difficult coming out of school. We do offer, it's currently to our agents and their children that matriculate. It's through the government, through SARS. If you want to do a year course, through our tax that we pay, the learner can get a free education bursary for a year, but only on and they mustn't have a job. There's a SARS pays for them for a year, so it doesn't have to be realistic. It could be any industry.
Okay. Thanks. I'll be in contact with you.
Yeah, it is very difficult.
And I'll probably give more information around what we do and all of that, and probably make an arrangement and see if there is that possibility, because we do every February we do host a whole career day.
A career evening, like we do, yeah, 100%.
All of those things. So
Sure.
It's one of those things that we just don't want to tell them about what's out there, what everyone knows, but we need to also expose them to industries like
Real estate, right? Yeah.
you know, like also what he's doing, where you learn how to go and evaluate the house and say, is it worth buying this house or not worth buying, you know, than us keep sending, would become the same system that keeps producing kids that tomorrow they become unemployed, you know.
No,
But we need to be able to bring them to opportunities, even if it's going to be difficult, but they need to at least have some ways of doing that. And because we have some sort of sponsors that does sponsor us, we should be able to cover them for some.
For the period of time, sure.
And you know, if, for example, at the end when if they do decide to come in, we'll do a disc profile on them. So a disc is a D, is a high D or I, is influencer, social, is a social person, and C is compliant. So if your learner, for example, thinks he wants to do real estate, and his disc profile says is a CS, we advise him not to become an estate agent, because a C is a left brain, is very compliant, they like their ducks in a row, they're not salespeople. So we would say to the sellers, it's not going to be the industry for you. You've got to be a D or I. An influencer, be able to speak to people, and you know, salespeople are loud. So we don't just take anybody, because we don't want to waste their time either, because it'll cost them money. They don't get a salary, they've got to pay for their petrol, their car, their cell phones. So we make sure that this profile at least gives them a chance to make it in the industry.
Okay, thanks, I'll be in touch.
Fantastic.
Yeah, please.
We see how we can partner.
Wonderful.
Take it forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to get into the competition segment right now.
Kruger.
I just have one question.
Oh, no, it's prudent. The other one's prudent.
The lady at the front here, my lady, the teacher.
Gina.
You mentioned something about rent to buy and how the transfer duty is due in 6 months. So when is the agency commission due? Then it is over to you.
On registration.
Only on registration.
Okay, just remember, rent to buy, I think what Gina did, a normal rent to buy agreement is, there's no sale agreement signed. Okay, so a rent to buy is signing a lease agreement with an option to buy the property after the lease is expired. Yeah, maybe you sign something different. A normal rent to buy, there's no sale agreement signed, so there would not be any transfer duty implication.
We got some properties that the deceased estate that takes nearly 2 to 3 years to register. The agent has to wait 2 to 3 years before they get their money.
Okay, so rent to buy, normally there would be no transfer duty implication whatsoever. But the way that yours was, I don't know how yours was worded, or you signed an offer to purchase with a release agreement, which shouldn't really have happened. No, installment sales. Again, installment sales are different kettle of fish completely. That is a purchase of a property over 12 months and more in 2 or more installments. 2 or more installments. Okay, so that's a completely different kettle of fish. What you guys, I don't know who was your agent. I'm not going to ask, but they did a offer to purchase and a lease agreement simultaneously, which shouldn't really have happened if you're going to rent to buy. Rent to buy is a lease agreement with an option to buy the property. So no, there would not have been any tax implication.
So a rent to buy is different from an alienation of land sale.
No, Alienation of Lands Act is the act that sells property. So in other words, from seller to buyer, that's the Alienation of Land Act. That's the act that we work with, okay? That is, no, that's a rent to buy is you're going to rent the property for 6 months or 12 months. And after the 6 months or 12 months, you have an option to purchase the property, the first option. So if I'm the seller or the owner, and you're going to rent to buy from me, okay? You're going to rent from me for six months with an option to buy. When it comes up to the 6 months, I'm going to say to you, okay, do you want to buy the property now? And you're going to say, no, I don't. Then I'm going to say, okay, well, I'm going to now put it on the market. I'm going to go sell it to somebody else. You had an option to buy the property, rent to buy. There isn't such a real, there's no legal rent to buy sort of contract.
Really,
it's like a handshake. It's like an agreement that I will give you the first option. Yours was both.
I even paid the deposit.
Yeah, yours was both, which is very strange you did it that way. I don't know why, but yeah.
So wait, sorry, I just
That's fine.
So a rent to buy is more like giving you a first preference.
Correct.
To buy it.
First option to purchase the property.
So the seller can't go to
I
somebody
can't go
else.
sell it to somebody else under you.
First comes to you and said, do you still want it?
Tell me, those other ones, sorry, as an investor, we have these deals where, maybe it's part of those black market fantasies, where I have to finish off your bond and then we do the normal transaction. Like, how do you help me as a buyer in a transaction like that?
No.
I mean, as agent, obviously you're not involved in the initial, but then there's this thing where people say, finish off I'm left with 5 years, you give me a certain amount, and then you finish off my bond. So I start servicing that person.
You can't, in the States you can do that.
In the States you cannot, yeah.
You can do owner finance in the States. You can buy my property and you do the finances with me, or you can take over my bond and I just walk away.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you can't.
If you want to take over my bond, that's great. I'll let you do that. But at the end of the day, I own that
The
property.
thing is, it really exists. We have those kind of servants which are actually telling us.
Okay, but that's not
"Finish
lawful.
off my bond."
Please
That's
don't-
why I'm saying.
yeah, please
if
don't
I
buy
have
like
to
that.
involve you as agents, how would you help me?
Just remember, when you buy
Use the right lawyer.
yeah, when you buy a property, okay, when you buy a property, so from me, I'm selling you the property, okay. So the title deed is going from my name to your name. You now own the property. So if you're going to be servicing a seller's bond, you're just servicing his bond. There's no
The bank owns that.
the bank or whatever, but I mean, you don't own anything there. So you're just giving him money, basically. So no, please don't do it that way. There's legal ways to do it, and that's not the right way to do it. You're going to lose money.
No black market.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
Anything can happen.
No, the thing is, the people are attracting us with such.
I think they're doing it because they need, yeah.
People are not saying it aloud,
Okay.
but it's actually.
Okay, please don't do that, yeah, because you're going to end up losing money.
And then just on the rent to buy,
Mm.
so can I just get an understanding of what a rent to own is?
Same thing.
Same thing.
Or there's no
So
difference?
no. So basically, you've got first option to purchase the property.
Our lease agreement at Clockwork, our normal lease agreement, gives the tenant first option to buy anyway.
Yeah, so
Where
that's
our
got,
lease
yeah, so
agreement
it's
is
the same
drafted.
thing.
So it's exactly the same thing.
So in other words, I can't sell as your landlord. I've got to come to you first.
Yeah.
And I've got to say to you, with terms and conditions, you can't tell me you're going to give me 900 and my house is worth 2 million. So I'm going to come to you and say, would you like to purchase the property? Yes, I would. What would you like to offer? Blah, 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 blah. If not, then I'm going to go to the next person. That's all.
But Dad, can I
Just don't, no, just don't think.
Sorry, just a quick expansion on that.
Sure.
Can you, as the, let's say, landlord, decline their offer
Yes.
if they don't give you
Of
a
course.
beneficial offer?
Yeah, it's an option. So they've got an option to make an offer to you. So say the property's worth 2 million and they could come in at 1.5. Thanks very much, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm going to the next person. If you want to make me an offer of 2 million, because that's what I want for the property, then we can do a deal. But otherwise, I'm putting the house on the market. Absolutely.
So if you waiver, sorry.
That's okay.
So if I waiver as a tenant, right, and then you put it on the market, and then you find a new buyer, but then they're buying it for investment purposes, which means I'm going to stay there as the lease
Yeah,
anyway.
you could.
There's going to be a switch of lease. So I'll go back to what he said, that our job is not to make you meet, we go over and beyond that. So are you going to be involved in the switch of the leases?
Okay.
To
No.
what extent
Okay, so once you've
involved
okay.
between me as the leasing
100%.
and the new
You've
property?
signed a lease for 12 months. Okay, so you're going to now continue with your lease agreement. You're not going to buy the property. Okay, your lease, so you say you rent from January to December, and I, as a landlord, sell in June. Your lease stays valid. I don't have to renew a lease to the new owner's
Can't
name.
kick you out. It says hier gaat
So
koop.
yeah,
You stay in that property until your lease is expired. The seller cannot say to you, oh sorry, you're going to move, I've sold my property. Can't.
Lease is stronger than the sale.
The lease, as
but
you
what
see
I'm
it's-
yeah, but the lease doesn't have to be changed from Mr. Smith's name to Mrs. Cross's name as the landlord. The lease continues to be legal.
But then this is my new property now, and you don't want to move out. What happens?
Yeah, that's a problem.
That's where you need a good agent to let you know that there's a lease in place. And that when you're buying,
Now I think you're
that
asking.
you're an investor and you want to take a tenant on, not that you're an end user and you want
Are you asking if the tenant refuses to move out?
Yeah, no, I'm just asking from angle.
What if?
Then it's the eviction process.
Now, the duty to disclose the tenant is of the agents, right?
Absolutely.
And I'll have to buy it knowing whether I'm going to.
100%. 100%. So if I'm your agent and you've got a lease agreement till December, I will have to tell my purchaser, please note that the tenant is there till December.
But also take note, most leases only allow the owner, which is also the landlord, to market the property 90 days prior to the expiry of the lease. 60 days. So 2 months prior, it actually expires. Some landlord think, oh no, I'm going to cancel the lease.
Can't do
I'm going to start advertising it in the 3rd, 4th month because I want to sell it now. That tenant
they
can
can.
turn around and say, and that happens all the time. The tenants make the agent's job a nightmare by not allowing them access, and they've got every right to.
That's your
A lease is stronger than a sale. That's why being an agent is not easy peasy. You need to know your legalities.
So now going back to her question where the property got sold, and she's still a tenant in it. You don't do a new lease with the same terms.
You don't have to.
You take
The current lease stays valid until the expiry of that lease. Correct. Yeah, the current lease stays valid as per law.
I believe we've got load shedding in
25 minutes.
25 minutes.
So I want to hand this over now to Xoliswa. So
Can we disappear from the panel?
No,
Are we done?
no.
More questions.
All right, so Xoliswa, I'm going to hand it over to you. But before we go, once we round up everything, you please do feel free to ask any questions to Hillary, to Gina, to Devon, and to the panelists. So any questions that you may
And please
have.
eat.
Yes,
Yeah, there's
and
lots of food.
yes, you're waiting. So over to you, Xoliswa.
Okay, so we have a little competition. Yes, you can. Yes, so we have a little competition. So Sandra is going to give you small papers, and in that paper, if from today you are going to refer us to a client, or you're going to buy through us, or you're going to sell through us, or you'd like a valuation from us, please write your name down on that little paper. Sandra's going to collect all the papers, and then after she collects, we are just going to pick the lucky winner for today.
Oh, right down the paper.
So if you are either looking to buy or looking to sell, and from today you have gotten the information and you are convinced that you would like to actually work with us, then we are going to pick a lucky winner.
Just your name.
Yes, we can do just the name and
Cell phone number.
I've got that outside.
You've got
Who doesn't have a piece of paper? Okay, if you've got a little piece of paper, please can you just write it, Sandra? Thank you. Your name and your cell phone number, please.
And cell phone number.
Yes.
But you already have that.
Yeah, we have that outside.